Hello, everybody. What's going on? You are tuned into another Black History Month in esports on the Long Island Gaming League, our IG Live. We are doing this to celebrate the history of esports as well as those who are currently doing a lot of moves in the esports industry. So I want to thank you. We're going to jump right into it. I will not speak anymore, but I want to introduce our guest, Red in Fami. Hopefully, I said that correctly. You know, you might have a
Red
little
infamy. Red
red infamy.
infamy.
There we go. I was just like, I know I'm probably butchering it, but
Like the day of infamy, red infamy.
the
That's
red
funny.
infamy. I
It's
got it
cool. I go
down.
through it all the time. It's cool.
All right. Well, listen, I want to give you the floor to introduce yourself to everybody who's going to be tuning in.
Sure. Tamika Moultrie is my name, the government. But professionally and in these gaming and geek streets, I go by Red Infamy. Um, been a gamer since I was little, like the age of 3. My parents actually got me into gaming. As far as like on a professional side and how gaming has transformed from being into it as a kid and still continuing it as an adult. I just always had an affinity with video games. It's always been around me. It's been in my family. So it was always around. I've been a gaming journalist in the sector, also including with esports, for a decade plus now. So still holding it strong, still up with it. And I cover everything from, of course, esports. You know, this is why we're here, to various things in geek culture and gaming culture. And one of the core strides and advocate period is just making sure our people, as far as Black, Native, and Hispanics, are in STEAM, are in video games, and actually have a voice. A lot of times, our voices are snuffed and we're marginalized, even though we're the number one consumers in this sector. Yet you don't see too much, many of us, as the face of it. So, my platform, I love to just make sure that all of that is being exposed, you know, that we do create video games, that we are at the face of the forefront or in behind the scenes creating things, voice actors, actresses, mocap directors, mocap specialists, and everything, or your pro athletes, or someone like myself that gets a chance to ask questions and, you know, dive into the minds of developers and creators. So, yeah, it's a bit about myself. And I also founded Geek Game Type, which explores all of that. I also am the host, one of the hosts of Dames for Games, which explores and celebrating women in video games as well. So it's been
Listen,
about, you know, the elevator pitch of myself
yeah,
already.
there you got it down, Pat. That was smooth. It flowed. It was very informative. So thank you so much for that. Because I mean, just that minute right there, I was like, man, she's doing her thing right now. I was like,
I appreciate it.
so kudos to you. Kudos to you. I mean, so I know you kind of went into kind of how you got started very early on, but is there anybody, if you can say, or an individual who kind of was like a role model to you or really kind of influenced you? I know you've done so much, but is there someone in particular that like, clicked that light bulb and really drove you down this path?
Um, I mean, who got me into video games and when I thought it was interesting,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, was my parents. You know, seeing my
Right.
father play
Okay.
something on TV that I'm like, oh, he's interacting as a kid, you're visualizing like it's a cartoon, but
Right.
you see like he's moving these characters. So I'm like, I want to be down. I want to do everything that my father did.
Hmm.
So from basketball to video games to anime, like he's one of the forefronts on why I'm into a lot of things that I'm into, including my grandmother too. She's a big nerd. She's a Trekkie and everything. But like I said, those things been around me. So people in my family, even including my mom, she got me into Mortal Kombat.
Hmm.
These
Okay.
people gave me the passion to want to be in the whole realm of gaming, something that's an interactive art. As far as being a journalist, I would have never thought I was going to be a journalist in this field at all.
Right.
As a kid, I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to play around with chemicals and everything. That then led into computers. I love computers and technology. And then marketing. I actually have a degree in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated from college, it was during a recession. This was in '09. And one of the things was, during that time, it's very depressing. I'm like, I did all of this stuff in college and I can't find a job. So during that time, podcast was popping up, and then social media was booming even more in its beginnings, like Twitter and everything. And I would just express myself, and forums always been a thing. Before there was Twitter, y'all, there was forums and threads and things like that. So I would just involve myself in certain video game forums. And when Twitter came along, I was like, oh, this is a short form piece where it's quick and you could do something daily by the hour, by the minute, by the second. It's not like you're creating a new thread for somebody to, or a new post. And I was like, wow, with podcasts and people talking about PlayStation 3 versus Xbox 360. I was like, okay, I see other people that's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And then YouTube was growing as well. So I got to see people that look like me, that's not in my neighborhood or not from where I'm from, actually have a passion and see other women play video games. And I'm like, yo, I want to talk about this stuff. And Twitter was one of those platforms where I was able to do that. And that's actually where I got discovered to actually
Wow.
professionally write. So an editor, I always shout him out. He always like, okay, he always get like blush or whatever. But
It's coming again.
yeah, Anselm Rock, shouts out to Anselm. He's one of the most pivotal people to have like given me that push into my career and to do it professionally and get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just talking about video games on Twitter, and he sent a tweet saying, shouts out to Red Infamy. She's a dope Black woman that loves video games and know what she's talking about. So I was like, I just thought somebody was just showing me love. And then I think like the next week or a couple of days after, he slid in my DMs and was like, hey, how would you like to write for Black Enterprise with video games? And I was like, what? Like,
Okay,
I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, I was like, yeah. And I always I love talking about this because he did not ask me for any writing pieces at all. Like, I guess he just seen I was like, during that time, I was just 140 or 150 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since you got a check mark, you can just write a whole dissertation on Twitter now. But I guess I was able to articulate myself and convey my thoughts in a manner that people can actually attach to, and in that short form. Right. And that's how I got into writing. As far as to dive deep into to stick on your question on who professionally, Jamil Hill, like, I love how she does journalism, in sports. Sometimes I get compared to her, which I'm like, I love that. She has that fiery spirit. She never backs down. And especially being in something that could be quote unquote male dominating. I grew up around, most of my cousins are guys. So I was the only little girl a lot of times. So I had to be a little ruffian. So
show was talking about. I got you.
yeah, getting picked on. I have to have a clapback. I'm from New York, like, from NYC. You gotta, in Queens at that. I'm from Queens. You have to always have a comeback. So I just love how her strength is, even being in sports, that she always stuck to her convictions on how she felt, where she stand on a topic. And I'm that way too in this field.
Right. Nah, I appreciate you sharing that. You had touched on something earlier on with, you kind of got into this the beginning kind of with your parents. And what I wanted to kind of ask you, or maybe if you could give a perspective on the way the industry is now and the younger generation, the support you had. A lot of the younger kids coming up may not necessarily have that same support. It's more of like a no, don't do that. given the platform, what would you say to those parents that might kind of help to not necessarily let the children run wild and play video games, but to enlighten them a little bit more about the industry?
Sure. Video games, like I said, it saved a lot of people's lives, just like how sometimes other forms of entertainment have saved people's lives as well too. The thing about video games is, like I mentioned, it's interactive art, but it also focuses on so many skills and people building and social building skills as well too for your kids. It's so funny that parents will push their kids to be into sports,
Mm-hmm.
but then don't see the correlation on how video games tantalize the brain way more than, of course, physical sports can. Like, you have to think on certain like on a lot of things when it comes to video games, your cognitive skills as well. And like I mentioned, the people building skills too.
Mm-hmm.
I felt even with video games, a lot of times you can even build higher emotional intelligence because there's certain things that you should not take
Yeah.
so important. Like, it's not that deep. Like, we got to do this. We got to get to this mission. Okay, you're not good at this. Let's see what your strengths are versus your weaknesses. And maybe we could play on that. I think when you can use a video game to teach those simple things that we're lacking in society, even with adults, parents will get to see that, hey, my kid can learn these things. There's been tons of studies on kids that are even autistic, like how video games can help them break out of that. Kids that have learning disabilities or are not or can't read properly. There's kids that have come from other countries and learned English off of video games, playing video games with the subtitles and things of that nature. You can always use that form of entertainment, which is video games, and teach them real world life stuff. And I always tell parents, like, you see your kids playing Fortnite and they into it, sit down and play with them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
see how you can be like, okay, you'll start to pick up some of their personality factors that you may have never known that they explore in that video game. And maybe that can also be explored, of course, in real life, because it's not that's their personality. They can explore that in real life too on different things they want to become. The
Mm-hmm.
video game industry is a young industry, yet it's one of the top industries that we have now in the technology sector. It supersedes music, it supersedes um, the visual entertainment as far as like movies and TV shows that we
Right.
have now. We need doctors in the gaming industry. We need lawyers. We need somebody to look over these contracts. We need physical
Mm-hmm.
therapists. We need psychologists. So no matter what, your child that has a passion for video games, you can seek further into the different skills they have now on
Right.
what could lead them later in a fulfilling career and whatever.
No, and I mean, you really covered so much, and I know when people when they finally sit back and they hear it now, they digest how impactful of a lot of the things you just said. You know, it's amazing because it's like those words are literally things. As soon as they hear it, they could just look out anywhere and they'll see like the relevancy of how you're correlating the life skills, the interpersonal skills, the building that rapport, just in general, connecting with your child in a different way. Gaming is that solution that for so many times they've looked at as, oh, I don't want them to do that. And
Yeah.
again, as we are talking about Black History Month and celebrating this month, how do you personally feel, or what do you think of the representation of blacks in the gaming and esports world overall, and how maybe that could actually help propel it and propel the youth?
Sure. The time is now. I think because of social media and we're in the information age, we don't have to beg
Mhm.
someone who doesn't want us to be at the table anymore. We could create our own tables in our own rooms. I remember I was at the Black in Tech conference, Black in Technology conference, and there was some parents that asked questions, and we was like, yeah, the whole panel was based upon that negative notion of kids playing video games and how to kind of flip that. And being a Black woman in this industry, I've gone through all kind of things, but the one thing that I do love that keeps me even continue to be in the industry, of course, is seeing all the new faces pop up. Like I get to
Mhm.
see a lot of black women, a lot of young black women too on Twitch, or on Instagram or on YouTube, just showing their passion for gaming. They didn't
Right.
have to wait and say, "Hey, I see that y'all featured a white girl all the time, but I want to be interested." They just started their own thing. Even when I was starting out, it's a shame that I was told, "Well, you should be this person," which was a
Mhm.
a white colleague counterpart. And I'm like, that's not me. Like,
Okay.
that's not going to ever be me. I'm going to be myself. I shouldn't have to code switch, the quote unquote code switch, just to be accepted. Now you get to see so many different facets in the diaspora of Black people from all over the world be
Right.
into gaming. And I think with esports, though, which is lacking, the fighting game community is by far the top esports sector that is Black and Latino, Black and Hispanic
Yes.
dominant, right?
Agree.
Of course, we have Asian counterparts that participate as fighting games, but as far as the scene,
Mhm.
is mostly Black and Hispanic, and they get looked over all the time. And this is where all these different sports teams or whatever is like, look, you got to shed light on these players.
Right.
You got to, of course, see the have if you have these school programs and stuff, they need to see players that look like them,
Mhm.
which is really important. There's nothing wrong learning from everybody, but they also need to see players that look like them too. Even if they're not interested in the fighting game, at least they get to see players that look like them. Like, oh, they're professionals in it. Oh, they're making money in that too. Because there's a player in every sector of esports that look like us.
Right.
But just actually making sure that's exposed. That's why I do what I do, to make sure that those people, those stories are exposed. Um, so it starts with your school. If anyone that is a professional, educator in the field of video games as a whole, whether it's trying to take something like esports because it's something that can be a team building type situation, is getting your classroom, getting those students that's interested. And even you'd be surprised, there's students that you may think that's not interested, because I see it all
Right.
the time, especially when it comes to the little girls.
Yes.
There's a study of that a lot of little girls stop playing video games at the age of 11, while they're in their
Wow.
preteens. And that's all due to a lot of people telling them that, hey, oh, that's for boys, that's for little
Mhm.
boys. Oh, that's too masculine. And maybe you should do this and that. And it sways them from actually pursuing or taking that up further as an adult. I
Right.
was blessed to not have that interaction. I had more of a family interaction that embraced me playing video games and always being interested in it. But a lot of women that I've even spoken to as adults, they always had that negative connotation.
Right.
Even with their fellow female adults too, that they would be friends with, like, oh, you play those things, or you don't think that's childish? I wish
Mhm.
somebody would like, like, I wish somebody would tell me if something was childish or not. But I just think that educators should
Mhm.
really tap in, no matter if you see an interest in that child being into video games, but
Right.
actually just showing them, like, yeah, this is another form of learning. Like, video games is another form of learning. I wish, I wish I had a classroom that took computer class further. Because remember, you had computer class back in
Yeah.
the days. You just go on there, you just go online, you write a paper, and that's it.
That's it. Yep.
Now, yeah, you could do so much. You got VR.
Mhm.
You have AR. You just see the new Apple AR,
Oh yeah.
VR
You got
technology that just came out,
yeah.
the little Apple Vision. Like, there's just so much that can be done. Kids need to physically interact with learning. This is why a lot of test scores are down, especially when it comes to our young men, our little boys. Like, that energy needs to be fostered, not just in sports, but something physical that they could be into and learn interactively as well too. So it starts with the kids, and
Yeah.
then it starts, of course, with the parents and anybody that is into those things. You got to support the people that is now in these forms, these sectors, these seats, and support them too that look like you,
Hmm.
and say, hey, we recognize you to grow it more. Like, if you have the power to do so, do it.
Right. No, listen, that was great. I gotta commend you on the way that you're able to address, some of the problems that may be faced by individuals in esports, but also follow it up with solutions. And I think that's really keen and what people really need to hear, because the problems that you and I may face within the industry, going through them, we've probably figured out a couple of things, and could
Yeah,
could educate people. So I really love that, and I appreciate that. Not only
I
did you
appreciate
address
that.
some of those issues, but you definitely provided a clear and concise solution to how that can be handled. And I think overall, the more people start to hear what that is, and when they do encounter that problem, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember hearing a solution to that," and they continue to push forward. And there's no longer that pushback versus, "Oh well, you play those games as you had mentioned before." They might be like, "Yeah, I did, but this is why, and this is where it could lead me." So thank you for that. I also want to kind of ask you, everybody may be looking at us and saying, okay, these people talk about gamings. But if you could shine light on something that you have done that you're significantly proud of, whether it be big or small, what might that have been within the gaming and esports industry? If you went to toot your own
Um,
horn.
to toot my own heart, it's hard to do that. It gets a little awkward with that. If my thing always is, if you know someone, take someone with you.
Okay.
um on anything. So there's been ton of women or men
Hmm.
that, when I see that they're not getting the recognition and praise that they should get, if there's any type of opportunity that I'm able to have, I love bringing people together and shining light on them. So one example that I could think of real quick, Urban Decay, right? So Urban Decay, you have all of these beauty products and companies. They want to get into gaming, and they had like this discussion. So I bought like 15 sisters with me. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I was like,
She's like, yeah,
listen,
we rolling now. Let's go.
yeah, we roll it out. So I had like 15 Black and Hispanic women that I'm like, that don't get the recognition and shine that they should. And I introduced them to them, and now some of them have worked with that brand, have did tournaments with them, get products from them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if, and also, if it's not for you, and if it's not for you, there could be an opportunity, and you're not good at an opportunity, and someone else that's good at that opportunity, recommend them.
Hmm.
Like, there's going to be another opportunity for you later down the road. Like
Yeah.
I said, it takes a village, and a lot of time, we all that we do have, because we get to understand the plights and obstacles of being Black in various industries. So
Right.
because of those plights, you should understand, without, it's just like the nurturing factor that us women have, right?
Hmm.
We'll know something's wrong and be like, oh, so you need that before you even ask for it. That's just a nurturing instinct.
Yeah.
That should be the same with your fellow brother and sister. It could be the same with people that don't look like you as well. But
Hmm.
I'm specifically talking about my community, my people, because I only could talk about us. And I see
Right.
that as a problem a lot of times, that people love to fight over crumbs instead of trying
Right.
to come together and get the whole entire pie.
All right.
And that's one of the things that I will toot my horn on, and I'm
There you go.
proud to have that that spirit of, like, look, we can win together
Hmm.
in some type of way or fashion or form. I don't gotta be at the face of it, but we could win together in something. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
There you
and
go.
yeah. So that's one of the things I could say.
No, that's a major play, and the reason why I ask that is because sometimes people may not fully understand. Again, from this experience that I've had with telling people about gaming, it's the mindset they have of what it is, and for you to be able to take something, esports is fairly new and most people don't know about it, but to establish a relationship with a brand and gamers to where, give or take, a couple of years from now, that would have never been possible. And I look at that as, we're talking about Black history and Black History Month, but that in itself is history in the making in terms of the industry that we're in. So that's definitely a major accolade for you. And really kudos to you because before
I
you've done it,
appreciate
who else has
it.
done it? Right. So,
Exactly. Like
so that's,
somebody, but
yeah,
gotta
that's
learn. You
crazy.
gotta learn. Like we love to like Black history is beautiful. It's important. The things a lot of people like to cast out and like, oh, I don't want to talk about slavery, or oh, I don't want to talk about the civil rights movement. But I was like, if you pay attention to some of the darkest times that we can remember about our people in this country, you could learn how during those times we came together. You know what I'm saying? And just
Yeah,
because there might not be any shackles around our necks and feet or whatever, there's shackles in other places that we have to unbound ourselves from.
mentally.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like we have to
right.
unbound ourselves from by working together. You could always learn. And they took other people from their community or whatever and like, yo, you need help with that. And they
Hmm.
weren't blood relatives, so-called blood relatives. Like it's the same thing that we could do now and also in the future for
Right,
our futurism. You know what I'm saying? For Black futurism
right.
and Black presence. We always have to learn from our history.
Absolutely. And so it brings me to my next question. And maybe I know the answer, or maybe I don't, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Given the industry that we're in, it definitely has its ups and downs. It has its disbelievers. People think esports is not going to last. It's going to go away. There's no money in it. It's a bunch of isolated people. How do you manage to stay motivated within and inspired within the industry during all these changing times?
I've seen it before over and over and over again. Um, just like the Lord says, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And there's nothing new under the sun. Like there's always gonna be like even right now we see a lot of layoffs.
Hmm.
It's tough times
Yeah.
in the tech industry as a whole, and especially in the gaming industry. But what keeps it flowing and is always going to be someone new and fresh. They don't even
Hmm.
have to, they could be younger, they could be older. That's going to see a solution to something and bring a nuance and the morale to be up again. As far as when it comes to esports, the problem with esports was
Hmm.
because I mean, esports has actually been around since like the late 70s, the early 80s, and of course when we had Walter Day and Twin Galaxies,
Hmm.
and everybody competing at the arcades to get the
Oh yeah.
highest
Put your
um
quarter up.
score. Yeah, for the quarters in or whatever. Yo, we can do this, or you do this one time, and I do this one time, so we can share the quarter.
That's
Like,
right.
so, um, but there's always been trying times. They never thought that that would last and become anything as well. The problem that happened in esports was that the wrong people got involved and it became a buzzword.
Mm,
It's the same thing what we seeing with AI, right?
yeah.
AI had, of course, has been around for many years, but now it's a buzzword. It is
Mhm.
becoming. Some people might think it may be a threatening thing because we see people losing jobs or whatever. But you always got to ever evolve, with different things. We've seen that with the telecommunications industry, where the switchboard, that got changed out. That's
Mhm.
done, but a lot of those other people graduated into other forms of communication fields and positions as well too. It's the same thing that's going to happen in gaming. I think with esports,
Right.
always hire the people that actually know what they're talking about, that has been there, has done it without even making money from it. You want those people to be a part. We've seen that time and time over again, where a lot of these great tech companies have hired people that were at the bottom
Right.
that maybe didn't look like them and has switched and turned everything all around and made the company better. But we see a lot
Mhm.
of times in the gaming industry, because had this conversation with some black game developers where it was like, imagine if you would have hired like me
Yeah.
5 years ago, but you
Right.
chose not to. You wanted to choose your nephew who don't know
Right.
nothing. So
Right. Right.
like,
Right.
like we're in this all together. We all can learn from one another. if their merits, excuse me, their merits should be their merits.
Right.
And you get to see people's profile, you get to see people's whole everything portfolio on if they could do something or not. Hire those people that know
Right.
what they're talking about. And that will be way more fitting and will last longer than, yeah, I'm gonna just get this sponsor and
Right.
that's it. They just a sponsor. They're not a partner. They're not in it for the long run. It's just a one-off situation. So if you keep making your industry just a one-off situation, you're gonna have a one-off industry.
Facts. Well said.
Like,
Well said. So, as we continue to get viewers who are, watching and tuning in on us, what type of advice would you be able to provide to an aspiring individual looking to get into the gaming slash esports as a career?
um, so I tell anybody, the resources that y'all have now, that y'all have now, I wish we had. Just like I'm transitioning into like a new career for myself, and I'm like, yo, all of these resources, like, wow, I wish I had this when I was in high school, because I probably would have never spent all that money to go to college.
Like, no,
um,
this way.
yeah, I would do this with a bag is that, and I could be happy at the same time.
Right,
And
right, right.
family. But let's say like myself, I'm a journalist. I'm someone that creates content, disseminate it, speak on it, excuse me, and so forth. Make your video, like start interviewing people in your school, like
Mm,
start interviewing people in your family or people online. Like if you have a small community and you're old enough, or get your parents permission or whatever the case may be, interview different people. You go to your library and be like, hey, I would love to do this and that. Would it be okay if I could interview some of the people here at the library, or within your own school? I would say like try to use the resources you have first that's close to you and interview them. If there's a video game and you want to review games, review the games you currently have. It does not matter if it's old,
right.
because you can make it new off of your perspective. Nobody didn't hear how you think yet, so you made it new.
Very true.
Photographers, videographers, you can start your own stuff now. If you're an esports player or you want to become an esports player, make your own little team.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it could be five of y'all, or two. It could just be yourself. Make your own team and say, "Hey, I want to do a go to your dean or principal or whomever, and like, hey, let's raise money for this organization. We could do a tournament and have people come out to the tournament and raise money for this cause."
Right.
Schools love that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, oh, this video game stuff. But if you match it with something else that they will be in for it, that's how you could start something.
Right.
I'll be like, hey, this is for anti-bullying. We want to take this group, this class, the lower class and the higher class, the upperclassmen, and let's do a tournament for charity. Boom, you started a whole esports program at your school.
Right.
Same with the educators, you could do the same thing too. Um, Content creators, you have Twitch, you have YouTube, you got TikTok. Y'all making the dances and all the stuff on TikTok. You can
Right.
also take that same, just like how I got discovered on Twitter. A lot of people like to talk bad about Twitter and this and that. You can
Hmm.
use all these social media platforms and make it something positive for yourself. That can be your lane and your online portfolio of what you do and how you could get hired for stuff. So you be like, okay, I created a Madden tournament.
Hmm.
EA, look what I did with our school, and we did this, and see if your dean or anyone, guidance counselor that can help you reach out to these companies and say, hey, let's work together and things of that nature. Because if a school could get a Nike sponsorship, like I'm
They
pretty sure they could get some other type of sponsorship or
sure
partnership for
could.
their students, as well. So use the tools that you have. You don't need a whole bunch of money for nothing. We
Mm.
have these smartphones that cost freaking almost thousands of
Oh man,
dollars.
that's a
Everybody
that's
got
a
an
heart, that
iPhone
hit
or
my heart
something.
right there. It's like, man, how much is
Yeah.
this phone? I got payments on a
Yeah.
phone.
Exactly. So a lot of you young ones out there, you have iPhones. If you don't have an iPhone and you have whatever type of Android, I'm a Samsung girl. But whatever type of device you have, this right here does a lot of wonders. When I was starting out in content creation, I use this to edit my thumbnails with all the different programs that's on here. They have editing programs. We have AI right now that can help you on writing scripts for stuff that's for free. There's so many free opportunities and resources that you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to do anything your heart's desire that you
Right.
want to do as a passion. So, try to start now and see people that you like that could be motivating to you, and you can emulate them a little bit, and then kind of focus on how you want to do things if you're not too sure on the direction you want to go with it.
I love it, man. You dropped so many gems that people could just go back and listen to this over and over again, and it's almost like they got the blueprint. I could do this, I could do that. She said to do this, I could do that, I could do that. Oh, wait, pause,
Wow.
rewind. Yes, I'm gonna go back and go do that. So no, I love that. That's really great. I do have like one more question for you, and then again, I'm gonna have you close this out with more information on how to get in contact with you. How do you envision the future diversity and inclusion in the gaming industry? And if you had it your way, what does that look like?
I see us taking over. And the reason
Woo!
why I say
Okay.
that, I see us taking over, the reason why is if you pay attention to everything that people have shut us out of, we came bashing the door down.
Mm,
And because you know, you said no. Okay, we're gonna show you how it's gonna be yes on
right,
our
right,
end.
right.
So I see that we've done that in so many things from the medical field, of course, in science and technology. If we want to go back to the history of all of that, we were the precursors of those things. So just following that back up, getting that back into our customs and culture. Yeah, I see. When it comes to the gaming industry, I see us taking over. I've met so many creators and game developers that was self taught,
Wow.
just self taught, and have created some phenomenal projects that is out now or coming out due to the fact that they were told no.
Hmm.
We know how to work under pressure, and
Right.
diamonds are created under pressure. We know how to work under
There you
pressure.
go.
So I see us taking over since everybody want to be confused and don't know what to do. In this time and moment, we will
Yeah.
figure it out. And I see us taking over for real. If we just make sure we stay focused
Mhm.
and, like I said, not try to fight over crumbs, try to
Right.
actually just have the recipe to make your own pie.
No. Well, listen, as we said, it's Black history in the making. You heard it first from her, and I solely believe in that. We work hard, we figure it out, and through our efforts or just even collaboration is what had us come here today to share even more information, with everyone else, and they can always come back to it. Like I said, they press rewind and they're getting the
I
blueprint to hopefully
appreciate it.
that I appreciate you coming on. So I know you're a busy lady, so before we close it out, if there's anything that you might want to personally say or leave a final word with, the floor is yours.
Sure, I'm gonna do a couple of plugs.
Yes,
So
yes, that's what this is for.
yeah, so everyone, you could definitely hit me up on socials, the video game. You want to play some games with me or whatever. Everything is Red Infamy, what you see right there. Red Infamy across the board. Also, Geek Game Tyte, which is a website that I mentioned. Everything I spoke about today is what I make sure and try. I know the word is not to say try, but to try to make sure that that's amplified. So geekgametyte.com, that's TYTE.com. And then also in March, there's two projects that I have that I'm working on. I am one of the hosts of Dames for Games, which is a really dope showcase highlighting and celebrating women in the industry. A lot of times we don't get shined upon of anything, even like that we don't even exist, because PC Gamer was wild and that didn't show any women that was involved in the early advancements of the gaming industry. So that's what Dames for Games is about. And then also, shouts out to my video game amateurs family. We're doing an actual event. I would love to invite you to the event.
Okay.
We're doing an event here in New York City celebrating women in tech and all over New York City as well. So we having a really dope event there too. That's in March. So the dates are coming up, and any updates on those two events will be on my social media as well. And then I have some streams I got to do. So check me out on the streams with Twitch and YouTube as well.
All right, everybody. So you heard it. You heard it all here. I will make sure to provide all the links so you can make sure to follow. And we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. And those who
Thank
are
you.
watching now, and those who will watch this on wax, again, remember this is Black History in the Making in Esports. And thank you much for being our guest. And we're out.
Thank you.